since you've built CaratLane as well. So any specific white space or opportunity in the entire D2C segment?
In the health and wellness space, because I personally feel that that is the new form of luxury today, to look good. More than flaunting a Gucci bag, people want to show their good looks or their good physique or their nice hair. So whatever can make people look good, I think that is the highest form of flaunting which is there today.
There was one more thing which happened, the empty store thing. A lot of people came to the store,
where I think we also did a very good job of promoting that store. Wahan pe there was such a mad rush कि we had to literally shut the store down.
Some brands which according to you have become very successful in the startup ecosystem, and what worked for them?
So one company which I really love is a company called Traya, which is about hair regrowth. They have created a formula using coaches and digital and nudges and some psychology where they are able to do that.
Influencer marketing versus TV ads versus digital marketing, which are like according to you good ways of marketing where the ROI will be the maximum?
Influencers are very good to create very good content very quickly. They seem to have much better production facilities and they can turn around stuff much faster.
आपने CaratLane में influencer marketing try किया था?
सब कुछ Snapchat पे भी advertise किए हैं क्योंकि you have to try everything and check whether it works or not for you.
सबसे best कौन सा मिला था रोआस?
So I have personally felt
वीडियो देखने से पहले मेरी एक रिक्वेस्ट है आप सबसे. मैं YouTube एनालिटिक्स देख रहा था एंड वहां पर देखा कि 82.6% ऑफ माय ऑडियंस हु इज वाचिंग दिस कंटेंट हैज नॉट सब्सक्राइब टू द चैनल. अगर मैंने आपको थोड़ी सी वैल्यू प्रोवाइड की होगी एंड आपको अगर कंटेंट बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है, आई रिक्वेस्ट ऑल ऑफ यू टू प्लीज हिट द सब्सक्राइब बटन सो दैट वी कैन ब्रिंग यू द बेस्ट क्वालिटी ऑफ गेस्ट एंड गिव यू द मैक्सिमम वैल्यू पॉसिबल. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर सब्सक्राइबिंग टू आवर चैनल एंड एंजॉय दिस एंटायर एपिसोड ऑफ कॉन्वर्सेशन विद कुशल. CaratLane का 2008 में जब ऑनलाइन ज्वेलरी बिजनेस का आइडिया जब आया था, तब what was the entire reaction which had happened, and how difficult was it to launch something which didn't even exist at that point in time? And फिर उसके बाद से we will discuss कि next steps क्या हुए थे.
See, one thing which is very important to understand is that a lot of these terms which have come, right, whether it is Omni or DTC, ये सब didn't exist and these were not in our mind when we were thinking about doing it, right? Actually, the business kind of started in 2007 and while the technology is one very important part, and Mithun, who's actually the founder, right, who came up with the idea. So there are three things which kind of came together, right? One is that so obviously his family has been in jewelry, so he saw that very closely ki how jewelry businesses were run, right? Based on that, he had two insights. One was that nobody was building nice, beautiful jewelry in the lower price points. Like everybody was only building it for weddings, etc. It's like you only had business class and you were only catering to that customer and not to, the kind of business which Deccan Airways ek tarah se built, right? Democratizing it for everybody. The second thing which he noticed was that the business model was also broken. So it was like large showrooms with a lot of inventory, which was not a very efficient way to do business. And it was not a very good business for Rossi and other things like that. The third thing he learned in America, where he studied and then worked for a while, which is where he saw how digital businesses were being built. And there was one very good example called Blue Nile. So the three things he saw. Now in terms of the difficulty, see, there was difficulty at every stage. पहले the plan was कि मेरे जैसे 4 लोग को लाके founding team member बनाएंगे and business start करेंगे. मैं अपने previous job में इतना unhappy था in this large hierarchical bureaucratic organization, slow moving, that I didn't even think of the problems I was getting into. I just thought the grass was definitely going to be nicer in a startup. So let me just go, right? So if you want to know what was I thinking about the business and all, I had no thoughts. And even though it was, it looked such a ridiculous idea at that time, but at my mind was just ki I can't do this anymore and this should definitely be better. But the thing is that mere alawa they were not able to get anybody else, which just goes to show how much of an absurd idea it was, that me for very different reasons agreed but nobody else. Then kya hua ki the rest of the team, it was like impossible to find people. Matlab, forget about getting to customers. Pehle getting employees itself was hard. So finally we had to make some suboptimal choices also because we were not able to get the kind of people we wanted. Then tha ki chalo we have to first now build out the business. each and every part of the business was hard. Nobody was ready. Like right from getting a payment gateway to logistics, everything was painful. And we had to, find some kind of jugaad to get those done. Then the tech. Today, you can start a website in one day. मतलब आपको अगर एक ज्वेलरी कंपनी वैसी स्टार्ट करनी है, आज आप जाके शॉपिफाई में या मेजेंटो में जाके कल शुरू कर सकते हो, एज लॉन्ग एज यू हैव अ कैटलॉग एंड डिजाइन्स. वो भी शायद एआई में बन जाएगा एक दिन के अंदर. We had to build this thing on a thing called OS Commerce, and it took a year to get it done. So people sometimes ask ना कि एक साल लगा क्यों लॉन्च करने में. It's like a very stupid answer we have to give to that कि actually ये वेबसाइट बनाने में और सब कुछ रेडी करने में एक साल लगा, and then obviously getting all the partners. So each part, like all of these things, right, जो ऐसा लगता है ना कि हम कौन सा दुनिया की बात कर रहे हैं, right? कि वेबसाइट, and for a pure simple online website it took a year. And then obviously when it came to customers also it was very hard. मतलब we would wait and hope कि आज एक दिन में एक customer आ जाए शायद, या one person calls us. So that was how hard it was. And nobody was thinking about कि we'll go. I don't think DTC or Omni existed also at that point in time. There were other terminologies, like there was this thing called click and brick, which people would say, and yeah, and similarly other terms.
आप स्टार्टिंग में जब जाते तब मल्टीपल विजिटिंग कार्ड्स लेके जाते थे, राइट?
एक्चुअली वो ऐसे स्टार्ट हुआ कि कैरेट लेन का कार्ड हम लोग बनवाए, बट कहीं भी जाते थे ना, यू वुड नॉट गेट एन एंट्री इनटू द डोर ओनली, राइट, फॉर ऑल दीज वेरियस थिंग्स. So then Mithun's company, which was Jaipur Gems, actually that was far better known. And his other co-founder at that time, Srinivasa Gopalan rather, he had a software company called Lister Technologies. And we were in Chennai. चेन्नई में बहुत लोग इन लोग दोनों कंपनीज को जानते थे, तो एटलीस्ट दैट वुड ओपन अ डोर और हेल्प मी गेट अ मीटिंग विद समबडी. सो जहां पे जिससे काम चल जाए, राइट, इफ यू आर टॉकिंग टू समबडी हु वाज कनेक्टेड टू ज्वेलरी, देन जयपुर जेम्स वुड बी मोर यूजफुल. If you're going on talking to a bank or some marketing person or a tech thing, or sometimes, like even a logistics company, then some places Lister would be more useful. तो जहां जैसा जरूरत हो, you would use that card.
एंड देन मल्टीपल विजिटिंग कार्ड्स आपने यूज कर लिए फॉर गेटिंग अ मीटिंग एटसेट्रा. आई रेड वन वेरी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग वेयर लेट्स से द फर्स्ट NRI customer from Japan wanted to order a jewelry worth rupees 7 lakhs, and
Yes.
that time आपके बैंक में 50,000 रुपीज का लिमिट था.
Yes,
कैन
on the
यू
payment
शेयर
gateway.
व्हाट वाज दिस एंटायर स्टोरी एंड आपने क्या स्टेप्स लिए इमीडिएटली सो दैट यू डोंट मिस आउट ऑन दिस फर्स्ट परचेज?
See, basically, this was the first order. Okay. This person was in Japan, an Indian. So I think he was more comfortable with buying solitaires as well as more comfortable with buying online. His wife was in Gurgaon in the India. So I think he would have Googled and he found us and then he placed an order. The reason we had gone with HDFC Bank was their payment gateway, because we thought ki HDFC ki credibility will help us also in a category where trust was very high. For that, we had to give them an FD, by the way, to get that limit. And they only gave us a 50,000 limit. So obviously then he sent us a mail because if the payment failed multiple times, he was ordering a pair of solitaires, earrings. I still remember the size, cut and color and clarity also. Okay, anyways. तो उसके बाद फिर क्या हुआ कि he wrote a mail saying कि what kind of business is there, it is failing and all. So I realized, I apologized and I said just give me a day's time, I'll get it fixed and I'll then tell you when you can do it. So I went to HDFC Bank. वो लोग obviously माने नहीं, बहुत उनके साथ रोना गाना करके finally they agreed and gave me like a 2-hour window. So then I sent him a mail saying आप ये टाइम पे करो तो वो हो जाएगा. And you were so stressed कि ये गड़बड़ नहीं हो. Then you called the bank again in the evening just before closing to make sure कि वो लोग किसी ने ये कर दिया था, क्योंकि उनके लिए तो ये कोई छोटी सी चीज थी, राइट? किसी का लाइफ में कुछ नहीं होता. I had my own tech person on standby कि ऐसा नहीं कि कुछ और unknown issue हो जाए. And literally you're waiting, जैसे होता है ना, this moment and this person comes and you're watching and you checked कि payment हो गया and you were just so glad. And it was a first order and it came for 7 lakhs. So it was a really big thing. In some ways it gave us some validation कि actually ये business बन सकता है, क्योंकि ऐसे लोग हैं and ऐसा order करते हैं वो लोग. In fact, there was one more challenge कि before the order came, I had to get those stones blocked at the vendors end also. You didn't want this other complication कि किसी और ने खरीद लिया, because this was real inventory, right? The way you do seat booking on an airline, it might not be available after a day. So yeah, I'm like squeezing the story because I can speak about the story for an hour, but essentially, and it was such a huge thing to have happened. And yeah, obviously you always remember your first customers, right? I spoke to him when we had finished 10 years or something. So he had relocated back to India. But yeah, the thanks to him, because we didn't get another order like that for like the next 5, 6, 7 months. So it was, sometimes you need this luck to get started, right? And you need luck actually all along your journey. I think this was like a really lucky thing that, an Indian in Japan, for his wife's anniversary, the same month we started a website, and he places an order, and it just gives you like, the right uh, fuel to start your business and to feel कि हाँ ये चीज बन सकती है.
Did you end up going at his place
We
to
sent
deliver?
somebody to hand deliver to Gurgaon, yeah, with
हाँ,
flowers and everything. Yeah, yeah, वो तो मतलब the works.
राइट। एंड इसमें कैरेटलिन की जर्नी में एक बीच में ऐसा भी पॉइंट आया था जहाँ पर यू ऑल्सो स्टार्टेड द B2B सेगमेंट, बिजनेस टू बिजनेस यूजिंग ट्रेडर्स डायमंड। तो वो क्या स्टोरी था, एंड देन डिड दैट B2B थिंग रियली हेल्प दैट टाइम इन ऑर्डर टू पुट द मनी इनटू द B2C सेगमेंट?
Yes, it was. See, we didn't raise any money till 2011. So one, it obviously helped in the cash flow. Okay. And while it helped in the cash flow, but I will also be honest to say कि at one point I really thought कि ये business भी अपने आप में एक बड़ा business बन सकता है. Because I thought कि there were many reasons why I thought कि it could be, and there was a third reason कि actually शुरू में क्या होता था ना कि many of the vendors where we would buy solitaires from, and we would ask them for their feed which would get integrated on our website. If you were not buying for a certain amount of value in a year or 6 months, they would not entertain you only. So again, you needed more volume to get more good quality inventory on your website also. So even for that, we had to increase our buying. So B2B was a very good way to increase buying of more diamonds so that you could have a better inventory. So it helped in that way also. And eventually it helped in a very big way, because that was how our relationship with Tanishq started, which eventually led to their coming on board, and eventually they are buying out the entire business, which is the part which everybody remembers most about CaratLane, and not the other good work which was done. But वो story भी वहीं से start हुई. So it had, it played multiple roles. But at one point I was very convinced कि वो business अपने आप में बहुत बड़ा business बन सकता है. But then we obviously found various other reasons why it could not become the big business I thought it could be, which is why we dropped it after a while. But yeah, it definitely played a role. And I this is something which I tell a lot of people who are building consumer businesses, that the role of B2B and institutional channel, sometimes in the early stage or even later stages, is sometimes very useful. It obviously depends on the business and the category in which they are. See, जैसे think about it, no, अगर आप कोई चीज आपका प्रोडक्ट ऐसा है जो easily recognizable है, the brand, right? Then even if you're selling it through a B2B channel or an institutional channel, you're just getting so many people to try it out, which otherwise would cost so much money. And if it is good, especially if you have a good differentiated product and you just want people to try it out, it's a great way to do it, right? And then they will obviously come back and buy again because they can recognize what it is. If you're in a category where it is not possible, then it is hard. Then you will just get revenue. So I think those are important things in trying to build up, because any B2C business will start slowly, right? Unless you have a lot of money.
तो एक बार मैं सिंपल टर्म्स में एक्सप्लेन कर सकते हो कि बिजनेस मॉडल और यूनिट इकोनॉमिक्स जो B2C बिजनेस में और B2B बिजनेस इन द ज्वेलरी स्पेस, हाउ डज इट वर्क? एंड जस्ट वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड कि क्या यूजुअली यूनिट इकोनॉमिक्स होते हैं, पैसा कैसे बनाते हैं, क्या मार्जिन होते हैं, इफ यू कैन जस्ट सिंपली एक्सप्लेन.
See, there is jewelry. May there is one is the plain gold business where the margins are incredibly low, because in India everybody gets up and checks the stock market and the gold rate. So everybody knows the gold rate. And in India, there is it is built so much into the value, right? I think jewelry and in India is the only category where people know the input material cost and that's how they decide, right? I don't think there's any other category, and jewelry is not even sold like this internationally. So therefore, the margin on plain gold is incredibly low, and the only way people can operate, pehle they would do things which were not right, and they were people would do hera fairy or whatever you call it on tax, and then the quality of the gold. Then Tanish came in with the carat meter and changed all of that. Because that is why India में ना लोग डिजाइन पे ज्यादा काम नहीं करते, because people are not willing to pay for it, क्योंकि वो कैसा भी डिजाइन है, अगर वो मेकिंग हाई है, and people will not buy. Then there is diamond or gemstone jewelry, where because of the diamond or the gemstone, the margins are much better. Again, it depends on how much diamond you're using in it, right? If you have 1 cent in a 1 gram product, it's a lower margin. But if you put 10 cents of diamond in a 1 gram product, in that ratio, the margins will get better. Some brands are able to charge a premium on the gold or the making also, because of the brand which they come with and the trust which they have. But otherwise, it is very hard. So the core COGS level unit economics is like that. If you have a certain quality of manufacturing, you can save on wastage genuinely. You can, if you have great buying and you understand how the commodity markets work, you can buy gold at a better rate. So those advantages can come. Fundamentally, at a COGS level, that is what it is. You need great design capability to create designs where you can actually charge, either you can get a premium for making, or you can make products in a certain way that they give a bigger look at a lower value and people will be willing to pay for it, right? Or your wastage is low. Then the value, see, after that, then it is all your other costs, right? Which is marketing, sales, logistics, etc., which all depends on the business model. And in this business, there is one other big cost, which is inventory, because this inventory doesn't move as fast as most other categories, whether you compare it to fashion or any such thing. And sometimes, the inventory will not sell for years. Some people do a melting because they think that, let me get new inventory which is more relevant for today. Some people never seem to be selling it, only because the gold rate keeps increasing every year. So at least on the balance sheet, they see ki, the value of my inventory has become 3 times, although that inventory is not saleable anymore. So unit economics, actually, jewelry business mein is not, it's not, there is a lot of excitement in jewelry today because of, obviously, Tanishq, Kalyan, Malabar have done so well on the public markets, and then there is the CaratLane and all the other names which are there. But people should realize that as compared to many other DTC categories, COGS level margin is lower. What saves jewelry are two things. One, that because the ASP is high, other costs as a percentage of revenue, like marketing cost as a percentage of revenue, logistics cost as a percentage of revenue, although it's still a smaller product, right? Store economics, those are better. Like, you can open businesses where each store is doing 1 crore, right? So then your rent to revenue, people cost, everything gets adjusted. But fundamentally, COGS is not great. So if you have to run a profitable business, you have to really actually run a very tight ship where आपको दोनों चीज करना है. You have to find intelligent ways to get more margin and yet run a very high quality execution business to save on costs. You have to literally, there's this principle of marginal gains, right? कि आप literally 0.1% margin को जोड़ के आपको अपना घड़ा भरना है, right, of profitability. That is how the jewelry business has to be run. This is not a business कि you spend lots of money on marketing and it will not work like that, or you on any other line item. It has to be run where with, with art and science in a way. The second good thing about jewelry is, it's so deeply ingrained in the psyche and culture of this country कि कोविड जैसे समय में भी people did not stop buying jewelry. And that is what I feel कि जब तक इस दुनिया में, इंडिया में, मतलब there are these women and we have even the smallest things to celebrate, this category is not going anywhere. There is always going to be demand. And actually, there are more and more new ways of unlocking this demand. Although even with all the increasing gold rate, people have not stopped buying. Although the increasing gold rate is a problem, because it is making jewelry more and more unaffordable for a lot of other reasons. But I think that is how the whole margin unit economics things play out. It's not actually a great D2C category if you think of COGS. That's the underlying point.
So you wouldn't recommend someone who is thinking to start something in the D2C segment की jewelry as a category को
नहीं, jewelry आप
consider
करो
करना
if you
चाहिए?
really have a plan. See, jewelry, I'll give you one very simple example. Today there are इतने सारे lab grown businesses, okay, and I'm saying this on a podcast, and I've said this in private enough times. And if I look at most of them, and many of them have come to me to say कि आप, can you get involved, can you invest, and even a lot of funds have spoken to me, and so which is why I've got access to data and I've seen the jewelry and everything. All of them, the jewelry which I see looks like a poor man's version of what jewelry CaratLane has been selling. There is no difference in the design. सो द फैक्ट इज कि आपके पास एक नया मटेरियल है प्ले करने के लिए, लेकिन आपने कुछ भी दिमाग नहीं लगाया. आपको बस ये लगता है जो कैरेट लेन 50,000 में शायद बेचता है, उसको मैं 10,000 में बेच दूंगा, एंड दैट्स अ ग्रेट बिजनेस. बट एवरीबडी इज डूइंग दैट. Nobody seems to have a unique reason, and sometimes even ask them कि which category or which segment are you targeting. वो भी नहीं, सबको सब कुछ बेचना है. So वैसे बिजनेस नहीं बन सकता है. So if you are just thinking कि I'll just go there and I'll set up a omni-channel thing and I'll have a marketing team and I'll use influencers and I'll do lab. You can't build a business like that. ठीक है, you can open 10, 20 stores, you might even get to 100 crores, but you will not be able to go beyond that. So I think if you have to get into DTC, I think in jewelry you should have some understanding of what categories will I work in, what will give me an advantage or a reason to make more margin, what is the reason I will be able to have lower marketing costs, right? By sharply targeting a customer segment and having a better, clearer, differentiated proposition for them. Otherwise, you are just in a, it looks as if it is not a commoditized free for all, but it is actually almost like that.
तो ज्वेलरी सेगमेंट में देन अभी अगर किसी को स्टार्ट करना है तो आपके हिसाब से कौन सा कैटेगरी या थीम
आप
रहेगा
किसी
विच
भी
माइट
कैटेगरी में
प्ले
स्टार्ट
आउट?
कर सकते हो, बट यू शुड बी वेरी क्लियर कि व्हाट एम आई गोइंग टू डू ऑन द डिजाइन साइड, सो दैट आई हैव समथिंग यूनिक. एंड इट इज नॉट नीडेड कि आपका पूरा कैटलॉग यूनिक होना चाहिए, बट एटलीस्ट 10% ऑफ द कैटलॉग शुड बी समथिंग विच पीपल डोंट गेट इन अदर प्लेसेस. समथिंग यू शुड हैव ऑन दैट. And then you should also pick your segments of customers. Who am I going to chase, so that then you can create a proposition which is a combination of what type of products you are making and what design you're using and what is your marketing story to make it appealing. It can't just be कि lab grown use कर रहे हैं, that is not a differentiation. So if you say I will make children for jewelry for children, for example, then you have clearly identified a segment. So, like what we did in CaratLane, so we did partnerships with all of these Disney and other characters, right? So that was one unique thing, right? Then we figured out making jewelry much lighter, and we identified specific things for which people would buy jewelry for kids, right? Then we did research to understand what were the challenges people were facing with kids jewelry. कि sometimes there are sharper edges, sometimes the जो post होता है earring का, right, it is needs to be different for kids, but that thing is not available in the market easily because nobody makes it for kids. So the it's I now forget the word. Like these are the things which you need to go with the jewelry, right? The locks and the posts and all. Somebody is doing mass manufacturing for that who's not making it for kids. So you have to figure out a way to do a post for the child. You also needed a locking mechanism because kids go and play and often the earrings fall off. So you got the design right, you got these characters right to make it more interesting, and you solved for problems like this to create a great proposition. And then you did enough marketing, you figured out the right kind of packaging, because if you have a niece and you want to give her something nice, you can't give it in that boring box and that boring packaging, right? If you do all of that, then you make a business. So if you do this, then definitely you can build a jewelry business. But if you just think कि मैं सब कुछ बेचूंगा, then it doesn't work.
Fair. So if I rephrase my question and I ask you, अगर आप आज एक कोई ज्वेलरी बिजनेस शुरू
नहीं, मैं ये
करते
क्वेश्चन का आंसर नहीं देने वाला हूँ because people keep come and asking me, and so इसलिए I'm going to say no to that, Kushal, कि what business I would want to start.
हाँ
Because I
and
don't want
कौन
to.
से टारगेट सेगमेंट क्या
I'll just, because I don't want to say this publicly because people will come and say कि चलो let's do this, or because I said this so they will starting it. So that is just one question I will not answer. But I will say this, that just like I gave this example of kids, if you really understand कि why people buy jewelry in this country, for what reasons and for what occasions, and if you really understand what products are right for that, and there is a lot of regional variation in this country also, and each region is big enough for 10 DTC brands. Let me just tell you that. So the amount of jewelry buying which is happening in this country, if you just pick small slivers of this market and create a great product with a great story, you can build a business. There is absolutely no doubt.
Any specific cities where there is like a big rise, मतलब tier 1 versus tier 2 cities of jewelry buying? Any specific insights of the
Yeah,
region wise thing?
the big insight is that a lot of small tier towns like agriculture belts, etc., have major jewelry buying.
Oh,
Because see, finally they have a lot of income, right? And India, Jewelry also has a unique thing that it's a consumption product also, and for many it's an investment product also. And it's also unfortunately one of the ways to still use your black money, right?
Yeah.
And while the government has made enough laws for that, you know how you are a CA, right? You would know this better, that
Yeah.
how people still have ways to get around it. So which is why there will be a lot of pockets which might not be great markets for a lot of other categories, but there will be great markets for jewelry.
And इसमें in specifically in your CaratLane journey, so one of the interesting stories that I was also reading was the way Tiger Global invested in CaratLane, and I saw that Lee Fixel sent a LinkedIn cold message
To
saying that
Mithun,
I am to
yes.
Mithun that I am Lee Fixel, and I'd be interested to
Yeah, and
evaluate
Mithun
something.
thought it
And
was one of those, pehle these Nigerian hackers would be there who would send you these mails कि ये king आपको इतना पैसा देने वाला है. हाँ, he really thought it was like that. So initially he ignored it. I think Lee sent another message, and then he went and met him, and he didn't even know how much money to ask for in terms of a valuation. So Lee gave him a very generous valuation, and just because Mithun thought I can't agree on the first number, he asked for a slightly higher number, and then Lee agreed for that. And which is why I said, right, ki there is so much luck involved in life, especially when you have to build a business. Ki I'm not saying ki because luck is involved you should not try. You can make your own luck, but you should just be mindful of the fact कि whatever कितने भी आप smart हो with the best idea, you will need your luck. So do whatever to get good karma in a way.
So then, like in that meeting, only एक meeting में then the
I think as in
investment
they would have
happened.
spoken, and
Okay.
then Mithun met him, I think, somewhere in Delhi or someplace.
Hmm.
And then Lee, right, how he was, right? Not
Yeah.
like bar, very, very decisive. And he had this such a big thesis, right, on all these e-commerce categories in India that I think he saw what it could have become far ahead of what any other person had possibly seen.
Hmm. The reason I asked you this question was also because like a lot of now D2C founders who would be watching this, they're figuring out like when is the right time to raise capital and kitna capital uthana bhi chahiye for that matter. So again, like if we give reference to the CaratLane story and if you can guide the founders here, तो ऐसा कोई ideal ये होता है क्या like time frame या तो ideal point कि okay इतने metrics हुए इतना number हुआ तो ही fundraising पे जाना चाहिए. What's the ideal way of
See,
looking at it?
let's first, for the purpose of understanding and to answer this question, let's go through the CaratLane journey.
Yeah.
Okay, what happened? So, pehle, actually, I have given the fact that we started in 2007 and launched in 2008. So, there was an initial sum of money which obviously was invested in the business, very small amount. And we did all this making sure कि वो पैसा को आप जितना to get a sense कि business का क्या है, right? 2011 में we had come to a run rate of almost a crore a month, right? That was where we were. We had not done any major advertising. There was no store, nothing. A very small team. People like me were wearing multiple hats. कि अगर कोई बोलता आप क्या कर रहे हो, जैसे I had multiple visiting cards. Depending on who I was meeting, I would have said I am head of supply chain or I'm head of marketing. Okay, that was also true. Then when we raised money, then that is like the second phase of CaratLane's journey where we made all the biggest mistakes of our life, right from all the ways of doing marketing ki TV, but wo sab karke, while we burnt a lot of money, but we learned a lot. We learned what works and what doesn't work. So we tried the first store, we tried try at home. All of these things cost money, right? We made a bigger website, bigger catalog, more inventory. क्योंकि आपको ये समझना जरूरी है ना कि what will work and how each of these levers work. We also hired a lot of now that the company was doing something, it had got funding. So the earlier problem of attracting talent was also not such a big problem. So we got good people also. So in 2015 or rather 2016 when Tanish came in, right? तो उस समय तक 2-3 राउंड और टाइगर से ही हो चुका था एंड दिस मनी वाज गोइंग इन दीज एरियाज ओनली. So, we had now got a few stores. We had got almost like a full-fledged team in place. And when Tanish came in, there was no primary infusion. It was basically they bought Tiger's stake, right? So वो पैसा जो लास्ट राउंड में जो थर्ड राउंड में आया था वही चल रहा था बिकॉज वी वर अ वेरी फ्रूगल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. If you would have gone to our offices, nobody had a cabin, not even Mithun. तो एक तो ये माइंडसेट वैसा ही था, एंड कोई भी जिस चीज़ का लगता था कि इसकी ज़रूरत नहीं है, इनफैक्ट आई नाउ रिग्रेट दैट सम ऑफ दीज थिंग्स वी टुक टू एन एक्सट्रीम, कि पैसा जहाँ नहीं, कहीं कोई कोई चीज़ें कुड हैव बीन डन डिफरेंटली फॉर द benefit of the employees, let me say. But we were very, very frugal in everything, right? And then the only other time when we needed money, right, was during COVID. बिकॉज वी वर होपफुल कि कोविड में हम लोग उस साल प्रॉफिटेबल हो जाएंगे और आगे पैसा की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी, बट बिकॉज सडनली देयर वाज नो रेवेन्यू एंड देयर वाज लाइक वी वर वरिड कि विल रन आउट ऑफ मनी, सो वी रेज्ड वन मोर राउंड विद टाइटन एट अ वेरी मतलब रीजनेबल वेरी लो वैल्यूएशन ओनली आई वुड से, एंड दैट वाज इट. सो जो टोटल बिजनेस कैरेट लेन का बना है, राइट, आप सोचो आज वो कंपनी लास्ट ईयर 3,500 करोड़ से ज्यादा रेवेन्यू की है, has been done from less than 500 crores of capital. So the point is that if you really build a good business, which means that you have to be very, very focused on margin, your costs, marketing and everything, and you do enough experiments. ये करना बहुत जरूरी है, but you have to learn from your experiments so that you know कि ये बार बार गलती नहीं करना है. And because you're very objective and data driven, and I'll give you a very specific example of that, then you don't make mistakes and you don't those ego based wala decisions you don't make. So जैसे when I remember कि I'll give you two examples. तो एक हमारा एक बहुत एक पॉपुलर हमारा ऑफर होता था कि we would give flat 30 or 25% off for any product or basket value above 20K. And मैंने खुद भी एज अ कस्टमर भी यूज किया है. One day we sat down and calculated all the margins for every product, and we realized there were certain products जिसका margin was less than 10%. बट क्योंकि बिक रहा था हम लोग बहुत खुश थे, और उस पर आप समझो कि 25 से 30% का डिस्काउंट भी दे रहे थे. सो दैट हैड टू स्टॉप इमीडिएटली, एंड इट सडनली मेड अ बिग डिफरेंस इन आवर मार्जिन, राइट. देन वी यूज टू थिंक कि हम लोग तो ऑनलाइन बिजनेस है तो इन्वेंट्री की जरूरत ही नहीं है, तो बहुत ऑब्जेक्टिवली, लेकिन फिर हुआ कि लेट्स डू वन एक्सपेरिमेंट, एंड द फर्स्ट टाइम वी डिड द एक्सपेरिमेंट in the wrong way and we got a wrong result therefore. But after a year we did that again and we realized that actually inventory makes a difference. So then investing in inventory, which means money, but obviously then you have various kind of loan provisions also in the jewelry business, so we use that as well. फिर उसके बाद देन वी यूज टू कीप चेकिंग कि कितनी इन्वेंट्री चाहिए और कितना फास्ट डिलीवर करना चाहिए, तो उस पर धीरे धीरे करके वी केप्ट एक्सपेरिमेंटिंग टिल द टाइम वी रियलाइज कि टिल द टाइम इट वाज अ 24 hour डिलीवरी, इट वाज गिविंग अ बेनिफिट इन टर्म्स ऑफ कन्वर्जन, बट फिर 6 घंटे से कोई इंक्रीमेंटल कन्वर्जन नहीं आया, सो वी डिडंट गो फॉर इट. सो वन इज दैट डेटा अलाउज यू टू मेक चॉइसेस कि हर एक चीज से फायदा हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा. आपको सब कुछ ट्राई करना चाहिए, बट ट्राई करके सही से एक्सपेरिमेंट रन करके यू शुड नो कि वेदर आई एम बेनिफिटिंग फ्रॉम or not, and that should become like a culture of the organization, because that is what will make you profitable, right? That you do the right things but you try everything. So you should, it doesn't mean you don't try, you don't repeat your mistakes and you learn from it, right? So I think that आपको थोड़ा मार्केटिंग करना होगा, स्टोर बनाना होगा, तो उसके लिए थोड़ा पैसा चाहिए, राइट, बट यू शुड नॉट टेक मोर मनी देन व्हाट इज नीडेड, because the moment you get too much money you will start doing too many campaigns and you will get a nicer office and all of that, क्योंकि पैसा आ गया तो आपको लगता है ना कि कहीं उसको खर्चा करना जरूरी है. तो इसलिए आई एम नॉट एन एडवोकेट ऑफ टेकिंग टू मच मनी. पीपल हैव दिस थिंग कि अभी ले लो क्योंकि कोई दे रहा है, बाद में मिलेगा कि नहीं. तो ये भी तो गलत है ना, मतलब विच मीन्स कि बाद में यू आर नॉट कॉन्फिडेंट कि योर बिजनेस विल बी गुड इनफ कि इट विल अट्रैक्ट इन्वेस्टर्स, राइट, एंड इट मीन्स कि यू आर गोइंग टू हैव अ लॉट ऑफ बैड हैबिट्स एंड बैड स्पेंड्स. Why will a business suddenly which is so attractive today become not attractive? Your business should not be dependent कि अभी investing cycle में upturn चल रहा है या downturn चल रहा है, right? There is this data which has been released by DSG, which is the investment fund, and Bain, right, called Insurgent Brands. जहाँ पे they look at three metrics, which is growth, I think profitability and capital utilization, and they call them insurgent brands. I think year before or whatever, there were only 21 consumer brands which made that list. Can you imagine कि इंडिया में कितने स्टार्टअप्स आते हैं एंड कितने लोग वो इंसर्जेंट ब्रांड के डेफिनेशन को मीट कर पाए, राइट? या आप एक दूसरा मेट्रिक ले लो, आप सिंपली एक रेवेन्यू टारगेट ले लो कि हाउ मेनी स्टार्टअप्स हैव बीन एबल टू रीच 300 crores or 400 crores of net revenue. It's a very, very small number. You forget this GMV and all of that nonsense. Which means कि actually building a good consumer business is incredibly hard, and which is why you get such crazy multiples for that, right? So if you are building a good business, then I don't think there's a shortage of money. सो इफ यू आर लूजिंग स्लीप कि मेरे को फंडिंग नहीं आएगी, वो इसलिए आएगी क्योंकि आप बिजनेस ठीक से नहीं बना रहे हो. So I think if you build correctly, because the moment you have more money, no, you will develop bad habits. And these bad habits will not just be bad for your investment, it will also mean कि आपको जो margin बढ़ाने के लिए और जो execution पे जो अच्छी habits आपको बनानी चाहिए, आप बना चुके हो, वो भी खराब हो जाएंगी. Because it will just, money I think is the worst thing for investing. In fact, you see so many amazing businesses which are bootstrapped. I think there is no reason why, if you use debt properly and you just take the right amount of money, you can build a great DTC or any kind of business in this country.
Can you give some examples?
See, जैसे I was looking at, you look at Zerodha, right? How much money have they raised? Or like I gave you
Zero.
CaratLane's example, right? Less than 500 crores. And there are a couple of businesses which we are evaluating right now. Isliye I'm not going to give that name, but I can tell you that those businesses are there which are both bootstrapped. Zero money, and they have reached 200-300 crore ka revenue, and they are profitable. So, and I've seen, I've looked at some of the traditional food businesses, biryani and all of that. All of them, people have come in and put in money, right? They were all started and they were built in the right way with no capital, right? And they reached 3, 4, 500 crores without any money. So there are examples like that. And I think that it is completely, मैं ये नहीं बोल रहा हूँ कि आपको bootstrap करना चाहिए, because like in our case, right, if you want to test कि how does a TV campaign impact my business, you will need money, but you just take money to do 2 TV campaigns, and then you should be sure कि हाँ, it is good or bad. Don't do like a continuous TV campaign for 10 years.
आपने जब रेस किया था सो CaratLane ने, सो इमीडिएटली आई थिंक टीवी एड लॉन्च किया था, राइट? सो व्हाई डू यू से दैट इट वेंट रॉन्ग एंड व्हाट हैपेंड?
It didn't give us the lift which we thought it would give, and I think
कितना स्पेंड किया था?
Yeah, I don't remember because I was also not around at that time. I had left CaratLane for 4 years between 2011 to 2015. But it would have been 10-15 crores, because if the amount of without that amount of media, you don't anyways get proper reach. फिर ad बनाने में भी 1-2 crore खर्चा हुआ होगा, because we were making it for the first time. It is entirely possible कि उसमें भी some excess would have happened, right? Because that's how you learn. But see, and I'm not saying that TV is a bad medium, but at 3 years out in the business, when you're at 1 crore, I think it is not the best thing to do. When you have reached a certain size, then, and it also depends on what you are trying to solve for. If it is to build a great brand, or if you have zero awareness and you want to help for that, then it's a great medium. But depending on how much money you spend.
एंड आप बोल रहे हो कि वो जो टीवी एड था, देन उसका कोई बेसिकली रिटर्न ऑन एड्स,
मतलब हम लोग 3-4-5 बार किए, एंड वो उससे कुछ उतना रिटर्न आ नहीं रहा था. रेवेन्यू वाज नॉट ग्रोइंग, and the business was not growing in the way we would have wanted, or we would get a lot of visits, but it would not lead to any conversion. So we realized कि ये सिर्फ awareness बढ़ाने से नहीं होगा. We had to solve for a lot of other things also in the business.
There was one more thing which happened, which is the empty store thing, जहाँ पर like a lot of people came to the store when the first offline store was launched.
It was not the first. It was the second offline store in Bangalore. The first one in Bangalore, the second store, where I think we also did a very good job of promoting that store. वहाँ पे there was such a mad rush कि we had to literally shut the store down.
Oh.
Yeah, that happened.
So then, मतलब उसके बाद like how did they come? Like you had promoted it
We had
very
done some
well
promotion. We're doing some offline activities also in the neighborhood. And sometimes what happens, ऐसा कैसे virality होती है, right? It sometimes certain things just take off because somebody would have gone and they would have shared it somewhere, so others would have come and then they would have told others. So that kind of happened.
Got it.
Yeah.
So अभी एक न्यू यंग फाउंडर है जो अभी एक D2C ब्रांड चालू कर रहा है, तो मार्केटिंग अभी दे हैव टू फिगर आउट. ओके, सो नाउ माय क्वेश्चन टू यू इज इन्फ्लुएंसर मार्केटिंग वर्सेस टीवी एड्स वर्सेस डिजिटल मार्केटिंग, बहुत अलग अलग वेज है. व्हाट वुड यू एडवाइस देम कि कैसे शुरू करना है, क्या स्टेज पे इन्फ्लुएंसर लेना भी है, नहीं लेना है, एंड विच आर लाइक अकॉर्डिंग टू यू विच आर गुड वेज ऑफ मार्केटिंग वेयर द ROS, द रिटर्न ऑन एड स्पेंड, विल बी द मैक्सिमम आपके एक्सपीरियंस के हिसाब से?
जैसे ना, I'll tell you, digital में see, in the early days, you will have to do a lot of digital, and then I think you will always have to do digital, but it all depends on how you're doing it, right? Because now there are formats, because you have YouTube and Instagram, which allow you to do it in a very visual manner, which is almost like TV, right? See, जैसे I'll give you one of the and see digital में the second advantage is that if you are targeting multiple customer segments, right, and you have different stories to tell them and different products to showcase, I don't think there's any better channel than digital, right? Because you can't do that in a TV ad, right? If you have to tell multiple stories, so that is an important consideration. कि are you selling one product to everybody or are you selling different products to different customer segments, right? Uh, Second, depending on the nature of the product, right, how visual it is, you can decide on even within digital, there are multiple things which you can do, right? Third thing is that, in our category, there was a lot of trust and a lot of other issues which people would have before buying. Because it's not just कि gold quality अच्छा है कि नहीं, diamond quality अच्छा है या नहीं, आपका policy सही है या नहीं, will my wife like this design? So there are multiple questions which need to get answered, right? So a lot of education is needed, and I'm sure there are other categories also which are like that, right? So you will be surprised that we even advertise on places like Quora because people come and ask these questions over there. So you want to make sure that you are influencing them also.
Okay.
So you should understand what is the way a person researches your category before they buy. अगर वो रिसर्च कोरा पे करता है या रेडिट पे करता है, आपको उधर भी जाके एडवर्टाइज करना बहुत जरूरी है. बिकॉज क्या है ना कि ऑब्वियसली गूगल एंड मेटा आर द मोस्ट ऑब्वियस थिंग्स, but the long tail is very relevant, because people will go and do, if you are in a category which involves this kind of research, so you should make sure you are present everywhere where people are actually doing research, right? This is a very big unlock actually. uh, then see, TV obviously I think should come much later, unless you are in a category ki koi nahi janta and you just want to make sure ki awareness ban jaye turant, if you are trying to almost create a new category, for example. But I would say कि it should come later when you have more size. And see, एक और चीज क्या है ना, you have to uh, understand distribution and demand creation. There is no point creating demand if you don't have distribution. So TV, because it is a massy thing again, if your product is something which needs stores and आपके 5 ही स्टोर हैं, तो आप टीवी करोगे, लेकिन जो आदमी सपोज पानीपत में बैठा हुआ है जहाँ पे 300 किलोमीटर तक कोई स्टोर नहीं है, so even if you create desire, it is not going to help you, right? So you have to make sure that your demand creation goes hand in hand with your distribution, and that has been one of the big unlocks. See, आज जैसे कैरेट लेन में हम लोग क्या करते थे, राइट, कि वी वुड फिगर आउट कि ऑनलाइन कहाँ से कितना डिमांड आ रहा है, वहीं जाके स्टोर खोलते थे. सो इंडिया हैज 20,000 पिन कोड्स, राइट? There is such an extreme Pareto which is there, right? So what you need to do is that जहाँ पे भी डिमांड है वहाँ स्टोर होना चाहिए, एंड जहाँ स्टोर है वहाँ डिमांड होना चाहिए. इफ यू गेट दीज टू थिंग्स राइट, then your business is set, because then you're not wasting marketing money and you're not opening any store which will fail because of lack of demand, right? The number of retail businesses which struggle, I told you, right, jewelry is a low margin category. You cannot afford to open stores which don't work out, because all the capex and everything which gets wasted will eat into your profit in a big way, right? तो आप अनफोर्स्ड एरर या ऐसा एरर्स कम कर सकते हो, राइट? और इवन डूइंग मार्केटिंग विच इज वेस्टफुल, क्योंकि आपने मार्केटिंग कर रहे हैं लेकिन वहाँ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ही नहीं है, राइट? तो ये जो मैंने बताया ना कि आपको एग्जीक्यूट अच्छे से करना है, वन ऑफ द थिंग्स विच वी डू अ लॉट इन मार्केटिंग ऑल्सो इज टू डिसाइड ऑन वॉट नॉट टू डू. वॉट नॉट टू डू मीन्स विच ज्योग्राफी में मेरे कस्टमर्स नहीं है, वहां पे आप मार्केटिंग मत करो. जो मेरा कस्टमर नहीं, जैसे आई गिव यू एन एग्जांपल ऑफ दिस बिकॉज यू आस्क फॉर एग्जांपल्स. आई हैव अ क्वेश्चन व्हिच आई वुड आस्क माय टीम कि कब तक रीमार्केटिंग करते रहना चाहिए. जैसे अगर यू केम टू बाय समथिंग फॉर योर मॉम्स बर्थडे, या यू केम टू बाय समथिंग फॉर दिवाली, कि दिवाली के 20 दिन पहले यू स्टार्टेड ब्राउजिंग, तो अब दिवाली जब हो गया, शुड आई कीप रीमार्केटिंग? बिकॉज गूगल इज नॉट गोइंग टू स्टॉप रीमार्केटिंग और मेटा इज नॉट गोइंग टू स्टॉप रीमार्केटिंग, बिकॉज उनका तो एल्गोरिदम है ना, उसको क्या मतलब है कि दिवाली है कि नहीं. यू हैव टू डिसाइड वेदर इट शुड स्टॉप और नॉट. सो वी यूज्ड टू रन अ लॉट ऑफ दिस ए बी टेस्ट टू फिगर आउट कि किस ऑडियंस को ना, या जो किस रीजन से आ रहा था या किस टाइप का था, कब स्टॉप कर देना चाहिए रीमार्केटिंग. एंड वी फिगर्ड कि मेनी ऑफ देम नीडेड टू बी स्टॉप्ड. सो यू बॉस, और जैसे कोई आदमी आपके ऑलरेडी आपके फनल में आ गया, मतलब फनल मीनिंग they have contacted your call center, for example, then why do you have to do marketing and bring them back? Then you already have their contact information, and that should be the reason to bring them back, right? So again, people whose contact information is there, right? Again, if I don't have a store, why should I go and market over there, right? So there is so much you can save over there. तो इस तरह से who not to mark. And जैसे I'll give you another use case for this. You have come to my website 10 times now, browsed, added to cart, whatever, and never purchased. Are you ever going to buy in the future? Matlab, it is possible that you don't like my design language, or you think my making charge is high. And if that is the reason for you to not to buy, that is not changing anywhere, because I'm not going to reduce or change my design language ever, right? So possibly I should stop targeting you only. क्योंकि आप मेरे लिए रेलेवेंट ही नहीं हो। आप बहुत अच्छे कस्टमर हो, लेकिन आप मेरे लिए सही, और आपको ये समझना है ना, 140 करोड़ की आबादी में एक अच्छा टीटीसी ब्रांड बनाने के लिए कितने कस्टमर्स चाहिए? 3-4 लाख। अगेन डिपेंडिंग ऑन द कैटेगरी। ज्वेलरी में 3-4 लाख में अच्छा बिज़नेस बन जाएगा, राइट? शायद ब्यूटी में आपको 10-20 लाख चाहिए होगा। तो आपको ये भी देखना है ना कि अगर आपको 4 ही लाख कस्टमर्स चाहिए ओवर द नेक्स्ट 4-5 इयर्स, तो आपको क्यों सबको चेज़ करना है? सो यू हैव टू जस्ट फिगर आउट नो कि अगर आप डिपेंडिंग ऑन योर कन्वर्जन एंड रिपीट रेट, कि 4 लाख के लिए एक्चुअली कितने लोगों को टारगेट करने की ज़रूरत है, राइट? एंड यू विल रियलाइज़ कि वी ऑल हैव गेट दिस नंबर ऑफ कस्टमर्स ह्यूजली रॉन्ग। यू कैनॉट इमेजिन कि इवन अ ब्रांड लाइक तनिष्क इतने साल से है, और कल्याण, कि उनके पास कितने कस्टमर्स होंगे। वी don't do this math, and इसलिए we don't realize कि actually how many customers are needed. I think I have gone all over the place, but coming back to this, right? If I have to give advice, so obviously you need to know what not to do, and you should, depending on the category, I think digital has to be done, but how much visual you use in that and how much you don't use, which other non-Google meta options you choose is very important, especially in the beginning of your journey. Uh, and then obviously TV becomes relevant once you have the distribution to make, and you want to make a noise about it. And again, see, distribution doesn't just mean your own stores, whichever way. If you have distribution, then you should make sure that demand and distribution का marriage basically and match होना बहुत जरूरी है. And coming back to the influencers part, see, I am a believer that influencers are very good to create very good content very quickly. They seem to have much better production facilities, and they can turn around stuff much faster, right? As compared to your own people also, or even your agency, because they are not charging you for the creative, right? They are charging you for the reach. Uh, and in small towns, I've seen that some influencers have so much trust also that people really believe them. So I actually feel that in smaller towns, influencers actually play a bigger role in getting you business also. I have personally felt that in trust wala categories, at least, influencers don't help so much because people don't believe them, and especially categories which need trust. So they give you reach, but it doesn't help. शायद थोड़ा awareness बनता होगा या थोड़ी discovery होती होगी, but nothing beyond that. So it also depends on what marketing problem you are trying to solve for. Are you just want to create awareness or only discovery? Then possibly they work. But if you want trust and conversion, then it doesn't work so well. I feel the most important influencer is your own customer. So just in a case like CaratLane, we would over-index to get reviews and videos from our own customers and use them on our own platforms. And that has much better engagement than what your any influencer can do. It is like, what happens in marketing, that the most impactful things are the harder things to do. And there are also things which don't look great on your resume. So you have to also understand the psychology of people who work in your organization. वो क्या चाहता है? Think about it. एक marketing वाला बंदा है. उसके resume पे क्या अच्छा लगेगा, and वो आपकी कंपनी के लिए अच्छी चीज़ है या नहीं. सो अगर आप बोलोगे कि मैंने यूजर जनरेटेड कंटेंट और ये सब किया, वो कुछ उसको दैट विल नॉट हेल्प दैट पर्सन गेट दैट नेक्स्ट ग्रेट जॉब. बट इफ यू से आई क्रैक दिस इन्फ्लुएंसर मार्केटिंग और आई डिड दिस टीवी कैंपेन, ऑल ऑफ दोस थिंग्स लुक बेटर ऑन योर रेज्यूमे. So I think that psychology of people is also very important. They will want to do what makes them look good, right? Or what the Google guy is coming and telling them. Google will always come and tell you कि आप ऐसा किए, इतना lift आया, without giving you any specifics of that. So you should also be very smart at, I don't think you should believe in any data which Meta and Google give you. You should have your own way of checking that. So we would only check ki what online campaign gave us how many footfalls, and not rely on their data. Their data is obviously highly, highly inflated. So decisions also should come from your own truth and not from what the agency is telling you clearly. But going back to the I think user generated content is the single most underutilized thing which people have. Because again, jewelry businesses, if you don't get your retention right, you cannot build a profitable business, because your new customer acquisition cost will always be very, very high. And in a more and more competitive industry, it's going to become more and more high. क्योंकि उसमें तो अगर आप कुछ भी नहीं करोगे, हर साल इन्फ्लेशन से Google and Meta will increase prices, right? And plus there is so much bidding. Even people who have just offline businesses want to do digital marketing, right? So you have to find ways of using your existing customers, one, to get more business from them. The other big hack is that existing customers are also super useful to get new customers in trust wala categories. I have seen this, and we have measured it also, how much of our new business would come from existing customers. For two things. One is that they would tell them, and also they would gift them. A lot of people who would get a CaratLane gift would then come and buy on their own in the next 2-3 months. तो यू हैव टू मेक श्योर कि ये भी इंजन से आप न्यू एक्विजिशन करो, राइट? लेकिन सी इसमें क्या ना, अगेन दिस इज एन एग्जांपल ऑफ द हार्ड थिंग. व्हाई डू पीपल नॉट डू मोर ऑफ दिस? बिकॉज इसमें इतना सारा चैलेंज है. एक, आपको पहले तो कितना वर्ड ऑफ माउथ हो रहा है वो ट्रैक करने के लिए कोई अच्छा डैशबोर्ड नहीं है, या कोई एआई नहीं है जो आपको आंसर दे देगा. यू हैव टू लिटरली आस्क एवरी कस्टमर एंड गेट दैट डेटा. सो इट्स टू पेनफुल, राइट? Then even getting each one of them to post videos, क्योंकि अगेन there's no simple tool, right? You have to literally chase each and every customer, get that video, थोड़ा सा edit it to make it look more presentable, then post it, then track कि कितना word of mouth से उसको कितना referral, it's all the offline झमेला वाला stuff. So people don't want to do it. Even retention marketing. See, how many people you can go and check people का LinkedIn profiles, कि जो मार्केटिंग का वो लोग अपने डिस्क्रिप्शन लिखते हैं, हाउ मेनी पीपल से कि आई रियली क्रैक द CRM एंड रिटेंशन मेथड टू ग्रो माई बिजनेस. इट्स अ वेरी स्मॉल नंबर, but that actually is a much more powerful thing than all your performance marketing for new customer acquisition. That is what brought our CAC down. More than, obviously we did many things to reduce our new CAC, but overall CAC came down because retention increased a lot, and retention has been increasing for the last 7 years, even though the base has kept getting bigger. And I'm not just talking 12-month retention, I'm talking lifetime retention also.
So lifetime retention मतलब like existing
जो आज तक जो कस्टमर है,
बार बार
जो 1 अप्रैल को जितने कस्टमर्स थे CaratLane के, उसमें से कितने लोग इस साल खरीदेंगे?
I saw one YouTube video जहाँ पे लिखा था कि इंडस्ट्री में this number is 5%, whereas CaratLane का number was 25%.
It is now more than 25%, but in the industry, this number, I don't know whether I said 5%, but our number is higher than the number you are saying.
Oh, okay. And you are saying this was primarily because retention basically.
There is a full-fledged team for retention. And retention, see, you have to also understand this retention is not. Let me ask you this question. Retention किसका KRA होना चाहिए?
Sales.
That's the thing, no? It has to be the KRA for marketing, sales, merchandise, and customer service. Only then your retention happens very well. क्योंकि आपको, see, sales teams have to give great experience. They also have to capture data, because data will allow you to target them well. Merchandise has to keep launching new stuff, because they will not come and buy the same stuff which you have. So they should understand what is interesting enough to bring them back. Their post-order experience, and when they come for a repair or any other complaint, if you don't address it properly, they will never come back. And marketing has to make sure कि they keep, see, जैसे if you launch a new collection today, a great collection, आपके पास 1 लाख customers हैं. How many people do you think would know कि आपने ये नया collection launch किया and would have seen it out of the 1 lakh?
Very few.
And you know why this number, if you ask 10 CMOs today, they will not even be able to tell you this number. And I don't know why, because I feel that this is the most important number, right? Because you have made all this effort for a new collection which is not for new customers. New customers तो आपका best seller खरीदने आ ही रहे हैं. They are coming because you have launched the new stuff, because there's now some new interesting reason to go back to the store or go back to your website. So you first need to know how many people are seeing this, right? That is your top of the funnel. And then obviously they will come back again, right? And they will buy. So marketing has to make sure that using a combination of performance and other media which is paid as well as earned and owned channels, you can show it to more and more people. Like imagine if 70% people saw this, then the chances of them coming and browsing and buying is suddenly so much higher, right? And then see, jewelry fundamentally is a low repeat category. कोई 10 बार jewelry नहीं खरीदता है साल में, right? Like you would buy for fashion or beauty or food or other categories. So you can't also just focus on repeat purchase. You have to focus on repeat activation and repeat visit also. कि आप भले नहीं खरीदो, but मैं ये नहीं चाहता हूँ कि आप मेरे को भूल जाओ. Because the way it works is, no, that the next time you will have a reason to celebrate. Suppose you have something to celebrate. Today you got one more of these YouTube awards and you want to celebrate, right? I want कि when you are thinking of celebrating, no, आप मेरे को भूलो नहीं उस moment में, because you are not only going to look at jewelry, you will think of 10 other categories. You could go to a restaurant, you could buy a watch, you could buy a handbag, you could buy shoes, you could go for a foreign vacation. So the competition is not just between jewelry brands, the competition is with other categories. At that point in time, I want ki you should have me in your top of your mind. That will only happen if I'm regularly engaging with you, even if you're not buying.
So इसमें in your experience, जो influencer marketing TV versus digital marketing है, you interact with a lot
Digital
of
marketing has to happen all the time. You have to use TV at the right time and for the right reasons, right? And for whatever marketing problem you're trying to solve. I think influencers you should definitely use, but you should overuse and over index for your own users.
होगा।
सबसे अच्छा ROS आपको अपने यूजर जनरेटेड कंटेंट से आएगा, लेकिन उसको स्केल कराना बहुत मुश्किल है.
एंड बाय यूजर जनरेटेड कंटेंट यू मीन कि जैसे कस्टमर्स का फीडबैक, कस्टमर्स के टेस्टिमोनियल्स, एक कोई ऑर्गेनिक कंटेंट आपके खुद के इंस्टाग्राम, यूट्यूब पे डाल दिया एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. बट या स्केलिंग दैट इज,
that's what I'm saying,
like making
but
that
it
viral
solves one
is
more
difficult.
problem, that it also, imagine you use user generated content on performance ads, then it makes the performance ads ka conversion better because it is giving that magic flavor to that ad itself, right? And it will make conversion and all the metrics for the performance ads also better, right? So see, it is not independently आप उसको evaluate नहीं कर सकते हो. User generated content को आप अगर performance marketing से amplify करते हो and you are chasing the right pin codes, then it is a very very powerful thing, right? And then wherever you need awareness and you want, and once you have your distribution sorted and you go on TV from time to time for some things which is, you know, an important message which you want to give out, right? If you have a story worth telling, then TV is also, I'm sure, will give you great ROAS. And there are enough examples, right, where people have done TV and उनकी website की band बज गई है given the amount of traffic they have had, right?
तो ROS वाइज इन्फ्लुएंसर वर्सेस परफॉर्मेंस में एनी एग्जांपल्स कि कौन सा बेटर होगा आपके हिसाब से?
See, like I said, वो depends on what scale. If you do, see, finally, if you do marketing well where you have good content and it is believable, if TV works, I think TV will give the best ROAS. If you have a, but otherwise, on a sustained basis for more and more brands, I think performance marketing with the right creative and story and right product will give best ROS.
See, I'll tell you an example in the so it's not like exactly D2C, but edtech industry mein, like the major problem in 2022 was that ki everyone used to spend a hell lot of money on performance marketing. Their CACs used to go off the roof. There was no tangible outcome ultimately. Course bech rahe the. And a lot of edtech companies shut down because their CAC was more than the LTV.
And not just edtech. In every category, there is a problem. Even in jewelry, there is a problem, which is why I said ki unless and until, see, the way to do performance marketing would also be that it has to be matched with a lot of consumer work. If you have a team which is talking to your consumers regularly, to understand ki who are my consumers and what media they consume, what messages are working with them, right? By actually doing focus groups and testing with them, to also understand that उनका non-buying reasons क्या है, कि funnel के किस part में they are dropping out and what should be the intervention in them. Then your performance marketing can become very very effective. And I can challenge you कि ये जो offline काम की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, right? All this customer testing and regular conversations and testing creators. I don't think many of these companies would have been doing that because this is a lot of hard work and it comes with a lot of, after a lot of time you develop the expertise for this, because asking customers why you're not buying, I'll give you another example, is not easy. आपको अगर ये लगता है कि मैं एक सर्वे करूंगा और सबको मेरे को ये बता देगा कि ये इट इज नॉट गोइंग टू हैपन. वन दैट it needs skill in how to do those interviews from which you can tease out these answers, right? Because you also have to understand that there are many subconscious and conscious reasons why people don't tell the truth during surveys. एक तो एक उनको the impression which you want to give, and second there are actually subconscious or reasons also why we sometimes don't give the right, we think हम लोग इस कारण से किए but वो सच्चाई नहीं होती है. So it really requires super dedicated work on this on a continuous basis to get. You need dedicated teams who are just doing this. When you ये आप जब ये इंटेलिजेंस जब आप सप्लाई करते हो ना परफॉर्मेंस मार्केटिंग या एनी डिजिटल मार्केटिंग, देन यू गेट ग्रेट रिजल्ट्स, बिकॉज परफॉर्मेंस मार्केटिंग इज ऑल अबाउट बीइंग प्रिसाइज and not wasting resources and not over committing to certain bidding just because there is so much competition happening over there. this will only happen no when you, and it is a lot of hard work. Imagine you are running 10 different types of campaigns for 10 different segments. आपको हर एक के लिए काम करना होगा. Keep refreshing the creative. So it is a lot of work. Only when you're committed to doing it at that level and at that intensity on an ongoing basis can you get great results. And I don't know what these businesses or even jewelry companies or beauty or other brands have done, but I am very sure कि इतना offline work to complement your performance marketing, I don't think कि बहुत लोग करते हैं.
राइट. आपने CaratLane में इन्फ्लुएंसर मार्केटिंग ट्राई किया था?
सब कुछ या हम लोग ऐसा कोई चीज नहीं, स्नैपचैट पे भी एडवर्टाइज किए हैं क्योंकि यू हैव टू ट्राई एवरीथिंग एंड चेक वेदर इट वर्क्स और नॉट फॉर यू. एंड लाइक आई सेड राइट, रेडिट एंड कोरा एंड ऑल, अनलेस एंड अनटिल यू ट्राइड इट, यू वुड हैव नॉट फाउंड आउट कि एक्चुअली एट अ स्मॉल स्केल बट दे गिव यू ग्रेट रोआस.
तो सबसे बेस्ट कौन सा मिला था रोआस, लाइक ऑन विच प्लेटफॉर्म?
See, ये इतना specific I would not remember because as you know, my job was to see whether our overall marketing cost was in line or not. But our marketing people, I'm sure, would give you this answer.
And influencer marketing also worked out well.
See, influencer marketing also, like I said, it worked for certain types of problems. In certain cities, it worked better. But just doing influencer marketing all the time doesn't work.
एंड आप बोल रहे हो कि टीवी भी कर सकते हो लेट्स से एट स्केल आफ्टर अ पॉइंट इन टाइम, बट डोंट यू थिंक कि अभी जो लाइक लेट्स से जेनजी और यंग जनरेशन जो है, like TV commercials have become kind of dead, or it is like not the
See,
present
TV
right
meaning
now.
I don't think people are consuming TV on TV, right? But जैसे अभी India England, I don't know how many people watch Test cricket, but imagine you were advertising during the IPL, for example, and you'll be on Hotstar essentially. I think that would get very good visibility, right? Or whatever other content is very popular with the audience who you are targeting. I think it will definitely work. See, but TV में वही है ना कि you need to have a very interesting ad or a story also, right? If it is like one boring, there are many ads, right, which people remember because, and even the ones which people air today. See, I will also be honest to tell you two things. Just actually our most successful TV ad was one of the first ones which we have done. Not many of the ones which did later. So we are not any experts on TV advertising also. I will not say that we are experts. So in a way, you are asking somebody who's not, as an organization, not just as an individual, we didn't do such a great job of it. So we are possibly the wrong people to ask. Second, I think, the way CaratLane's brand was built, what we got right was getting the product or the design based thing right. That helped to build the brand and the customer experience part. जो communication based brand building होती है वो बहुत दिन तक we were not able to get it right, and only much later in the day we were able to get it right more often.
I was talking to one of my friends. He runs India's largest digital marketing agency. He was telling me that for one ad for their client, they usually have a budget of around, let's say, 2 crores, 3 crores, or even more than that for like a few of the clients that he's working with. Now, he was telling me that AI has played such an interesting role in this that he's been able to generate an ad of 1 minute using AI, very creative, and it is not even looking as if it is AI generated. What used to cost 1.5 crores can now be made within like 4-5 lakhs using artificial intelligence, and it is saving like crores and crores of rupees for the companies as well. So he was telling me like the use case of AI nowadays has become so important, especially in marketing, that they have now been leveraging these AI tools in order to create the ads, and like they're able to save like tons of money.
Actually, not just for TV ads. See, that's how I told you, right? Imagine you have 10 campaigns running for 10 different type of customers, right? So you need 10 different types of creatives and multiple versions within that, right? And people talk about personalization, but actually personalization नहीं होने का एक कारण ये भी है कि the amount of energy and bandwidth and money it needs to keep personalizing the creatives in the old format, and you have multiple sizes of the creative also which you need, right, which you need to keep adjusting.
Yeah,
it would kill you in that only. But you need like one army of people just doing creative, right? But AI has changed all of that. And now to AI mein you can do so much more personalization, like you based on your segments and even जो भी regional age, gender, skin color, सबका आप इतना सारा कि actually अब personalization होने का scope आया है because of AI. So even if you have to, you need 10-second clips का 100 videos, you can make those 100 and create 100 versions of those 100 with AI, so that your ads just will look so much fresher and so much, relevant for each type of person who's seeing it, which was earlier impossible to do.
Yeah. Any specific white space or opportunity you have just like you have figured out in the entire D2C segment by talking to a lot of founders? कोई category या theme जो आपको लगता है चल सकती है?
You are talking in terms of category, right?
Yeah, yeah.
See, I don't, well, it is my personal bias speaking, but I feel that there is a lot of opportunity in this consumer hardware space.
Okay.
Because I see, we spoke about two at the beginning of this session, right? And that just opened my eyes to think, oh my God, you can do so much more with simple devices like this because of how you can use AI for that, right? And also because very few people realize this, but the ecosystem in India to build consumer hardware startups has actually evolved a lot, right? From design to fabrication and R&D to manufacturing, including the manufacturing of components, which is why you are seeing so many amazing consumer hardware companies coming out of India, and there are people also who are there. And the other, I think, is in the health and wellness space, because I personally feel that is the new form of luxury today, to look good.
Yeah.
Right, more than flaunting a Gucci bag or a whatever, people want to show their good looks or their good physique or their nice hair. So whatever can make people look good, I think that is the highest form of flaunting which is there today. So whatever can go into that, and I think that has so much potential, because that I also feel it's the amount of emotional ROI which you get out of it, right? And the fact that not enough businesses and solutions even today exist. That I can tell you so many things, and I'm sure you can, even though you are a younger, much fitter person, of things which you would want if somebody had a great solution for it, right? So I feel the health and wellness one could be it is a hard one also, right? Because it involves real R&D, but I think the demand is just sitting over there. And this is one category where there is demand in the lowest economic and income classes also. Looking good is not the right or the desire only of people who have a lot of money. Everybody in this country. So if people can create great products and great services also, it's not just a product business, it's actually a solution business. I would actually really bet on that.
What would be the examples of services in this?
As in services, meaning, the thing is that it's not that you just give somebody a product to consume. So like coaching, for example, right?
Okay.
It is a service, right? Which you have to do to look fit.
Okay.
So, the number of people, like I go to a gym, the number of people I see there of all ages. And then, you sit in the locker room and you ask them about ki aap kitna supplement consume karte ho, and, how much do you spend on all the other various categories. Like people, once you get into that mode, no, you just become an irrational person in terms of whatever lens you will go to get every little advantage which you want in that. Matlab, the level of ki supplement pe you can have a 5-hour conversation, and then all the other stuff is equally like that. And these are men, right? But they talk like the way women would talk about beauty and fashion. And it's catching up so fast, right? Today, पहले कोई अगर मैराथन भागता था या किसी का बहुत अच्छा हेल्दी बॉडी था, it was like an exception, right? कि out of 10 one. Today, if you don't have it, you would feel like the outsider.
Yeah. I think I agree. Abhi, this has become a status that waking up early,
It is the biggest status symbol,
to
boss.
yoga, doing
Yeah.
meditation. ये जो अभी एकदम ऐसे change आ गया कि this has become like a
That's why
cool
it's
thing.
a new form
cool.
of luxury. It is the new way of signaling status. कि मैं ये करता हूँ या मैं ये हूँ, चाहे कभी कभी आपको बोलने की जरूरत ही नहीं, आपको लोग पहले ही पूछेंगे, अच्छा, डू यू वर्कआउट, डू यू डू दिस.
One of my friends, I was just talking to him, and he's like, he's really smart, like in the entire startup ecosystem. He's built 7 startups and all of that. And he was telling me that if he was going to start something today, his 8th startup would be something in the health and wellness space. And he was telling me that morning where like there is some wellness center or something he would want to start, where there is like ice bath challenge. Then there is like some sort of activities which will help people to like come and then focus on their health, because that is going to become the new cool. And then he sent me a screenshot of a company which raised $11.5 million, like same company outside India. If forgetting the name, in the US, but like it's a similar company where they are launching a wellness space, like building a community.
And if people are
And
building businesses like this in India
yeah,
also,
yeah.
and so I don't think that I'm alone in identifying this opportunity. I
Mm,
think enough people have identified it much before
mm,
I have thought of it, and they are already building businesses. And this is, we are at a stage where, like say early days of mobile phones, for example, that the phone is big and bulky and expensive, and it doesn't work well, and it has very basic features.
mm,
बट how things change, right? इतने लोग लगे हुए हैं उसमें कि very soon I think a lot of these very very good solutions will be there. So today one challenge is that you go to a nutritionist who's separate, then you go to a gym guy who's separate, then you use trackers like Whoop and Ultra Human, which are separate. They are not sitting on the same plate. Some of them talk to each other, but not all of them. You go and get your diagnostic blood reports, which is sitting in one other thing. There are some people who have already started working on integrating all of this in one place. Because what happens is now that your nutritionist is telling you something and your gym guy is telling you something, and sometimes they might be at conflict also. And you are not the expert to resolve it also, right? But imagine all of this was coming from one place who had access to all the information. This is another area where AI and the personalization thing will be like masterful,
yeah,
because all our bodies are so different, each and every person, that there is not like a stand. And the beauty lies in the personalized solution only, right? That you will get supplements and coaching and services which are right for you, and also for what goals you have. Your goals might be different than mine, so it can't be a off the shelf solution ki ek standard thing which will work for everybody.
yeah. And when you say consumer hardware, तो उसमें like, do you mean again Whoops and all, like all
Yeah.
these companies in consumer hardware?
See, because the power of personalization comes from data, right? And the tools and gadgets which you can build around it. So one is that if you track more data, and all types of data, like a conversation is also a data point, and then you use AI and other intelligence to make it more useful. So I think that is where there is so much power, that today tracking, imagine that there was a device which could track ki these are the errors in my movement while I walk. And every time I was walking, it was telling me, see, you're again walking incorrectly, because of which you have this pain. It will change my
Oh,
life.
such a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. नो कोच कैन डू दैट, नो.
Yeah.
आप जाते हो जिम में 1 घंटे अपने कोच के साथ रहोगे, बट व्हाट अबाउट द रेस्ट ऑफ द 15 waking hours? So imagine if you had a tool which could just keep telling you कि boss, your posture is wrong right now. Because I'm sure that theoretically at least it makes sense, right? That there can be some AI enabled video product which is looking at you and is able to tell you that these are the errors in the way you walk, run, talk, sit, joke, and it just keeps correcting you.
Yeah. ऐसा कोई है नहीं अभी इंडिया में.
मैं इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ ना कि वो क्या है ना कि उसमें ऑब्वियसली यू नीड ट्रैकिंग,
Yeah.
एंड देन यू नीड द इंटेलिजेंस टू फिगर आउट योर पर्सनलाइज्ड प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट एंड योर
Yeah.
पर्सनलाइज्ड इंप्रूवमेंट एरिया, एंड जस्ट कीप टेलिंग यू. मतलब इन लॉजिक तो आई थिंक, सी वी वन थिंग विच आई वांटेड टू डू इन द स्टोर्स, अनफॉर्चुनेटली वो कभी हुआ नहीं. एक्चुअली टू थिंग्स. वन वाज, हम लोग वेबसाइट पे क्या करते, वेबसाइट नहीं, कॉल और चैट में क्या करते थे ना कि इफ you suppose called us, and so I was talking to you as a customer service person. If I made a mistake, and even if I didn't make a mistake, but suppose you got irritated, then it would immediately identify from a sentiment analysis which was happening all the time, and immediately trigger a alert to my manager.
Oh.
So you could immediately then
Wow.
intervene, right? सो आई डोंट वांट, एंड सी कस्टमर किसी न किसी कारण से नाराज होगा ही, आप वो नहीं बोल सकते हो कि नाराज ही नहीं होना चाहिए, बट यू हैव, एंड ये भी नहीं कि आप फिर बाद में जाके जब आप लिंक्डइन या ट्विटर पे कंप्लेन करोगे तब मैं आपके पास जाऊं. मैं ये चाहता हूं कि अगर तुरंत आई नो कि यू आर अनहैप्पी अबाउट समथिंग, एंड देयर इज इनफ इमोशन एंड सेंटिमेंट एनालिसिस व्हिच कैन बी डन, एंड वी वेर एबल टू इंटरवीन इन अ लॉट ऑफ केसेस. सी ये चीज तो आप क्योंकि डिजिटली आप ये डेटा ट्रैक कर रहे हो कॉन्वर्सेशन, इसलिए आप ये कर सकते हो ऑन द कॉल सेंटर, राइट, ऑन चैट्स एंड कॉल्स. Now imagine ki how can you replicate this in the store? There are two ways of doing it. I don't know the rules about privacy about it, but all stores anyways have video cameras, right? So in theory, everybody who's walking into a store is being recorded, and you are knowing what he is doing or not doing. So now imagine you walk into a store and nobody has greeted you or come and asked you ki what help do you need for 5 minutes. It's a problem, right? You don't want that. So imagine if there was like some alert which comes to the store manager ki Kushal has been standing and nobody has come to help him, so you can immediately correct it, right? So this is a video based alert. Second, now imagine कि मैं आपसे बात कर रहा हूँ, अब आपने मेरे से क्वेश्चन पूछना स्टार्ट किया, एंड आइडियली आई शुड आस्क यू कि आपको किस कारण से खरीदना है, बिफोर आई स्टार्ट जस्ट टेलिंग यू कि ये डिस्काउंट पे प्रोडक्ट है, आप ले लीजिए. अनफॉर्चुनेटली the quality of communication of most salespeople in India is not great. See, because unfortunately, a lot of them have not had the opportunity and exposure which makes you very good at communication, right? And I'm not saying all of them, but enough of them. So, how can you use technology to supplement it? अब आप देखो, जैसे कैरेट लेन के कैटलॉग में 8,000 डिजाइन है. कोई दुनिया का ऐसा आदमी नहीं हो सकता जिसको 8,000 प्रोडक्ट्स का यूनिक सेलिंग पॉइंट्स याद हो जाएगा. सो हाउ डू यू यूज टेक्नोलॉजी टू सप्लीमेंट कि वो जो भी बेच रहा है उसमें दैट डिजिटली इट कैन बी हेल्प. सेकंड कि इट शुड ऑलवेज प्रॉम्प्ट मी कि फर्स्ट आस्क हिम कि व्हाट इज द परचेज ओकेजन एंड फॉर whom, and then based on that you can recommend the right product. And imagine ki if somebody was listening to that conversation and if they realized that I was not doing it right, it could just prompt me. So these interventions, just imagine the quality of service which can be done in a store, for example. Unfortunately, nobody has made this product. We have looked at some video analytics companies and we would tell them कि आप ये बनाओ, but they were more interested in making heat map wala tools, unfortunately. So we were never able to get it done. But just imagine that offline businesses can at least become 70% as intelligent as digital businesses, and that can change so much. You know, there is a restaurant, uh, I think it is Urban Mayors restaurant in New York, right? I think either that or the other person who wrote about this book called Unreasonable Hospitality, Will Hydara or Guidara, whatever his name is. वो लोग क्या करते थे ना, रेस्टोरेंट में दे हैड टू एंट्रेंसेस, नॉट टू एंट्रेंसेस, लाइक वन एंट्रेंस एंड देन यू हैव वन मोर उसके बाद एंट्रेंस. सो यूजिंग अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ डेटा, जैसे यू मेड अ रिजर्वेशन, तो आपका नाम है तो गूगल पे जाके आपका फोटो वोटो चेक करके रेडी रखेंगे. So at the first entrance, as soon as you come, they will quickly check and know ki who has come, so that by the time you come to the second entrance, he will greet you personally with your name and everything, and it blows customers away. Oh, right? Wow. Now imagine if you could do that the same way in a store, because everybody, at least 90% people का तो कोई एक image is available on the internet, right, which you can use. Now imagine कि if you use technology and every person who walked into a store was greeted एकदम in the most personal way, as if you were visiting a relative or a friend's place. You know, just you just start off on this तो जैसे मैं आपको बोल रहा हूँ ना कि how do you create difference in a business, right? And I'm, you know, while the product is important, the experience is equally important. So if really somebody put their mind to it, you can, and see his KRA or his goal in this restaurant business was to do unreasonable hospitality, and basis that he made the best restaurant in the world. There is some award for this where he was ranked number one. So they thought of use cases like this and they created this unbelievably amazing solutions which helped them, you know, become this kind of a restaurant. तो आप ऐसा ही आप सोचो कि आप कितना तरह से आज डेटा टेक्नोलॉजी एआई यूज कर सकते हो to create like this incredibly personalized experiences, whether on the website or in the store or in marketing. Imagine, you know, everybody would receive a video which was personalized, and not that Shah Rukh Khan wala thing which is there, right, which while is great, yeah, but imagine कि वो आप उसको एक और लेवल पे ले जाओ कि your store manager, you know, from your local store जहाँ पे आप लास्ट टाइम गए हो, कि उसका एक persona is telling you कि सर अभी हमने एक आपको, क्योंकि वी नो यू लाइक पेस्टल शेड्स बिकॉज यू आर वेयरिंग अ पिंक शर्ट, इसलिए आई एम जस्ट टेलिंग यू दैट. And he would just say, we have launched new colors which are similar to the ones which you bought, and I know you buy your shirts once a year during this time, and now we have a good offer or whatever, you know, which as almost seems कि उसने वो आपको बिल्कुल अच्छे से जानता है, आपको वैसा ही कॉल कर रहा है, because technology today is capable of doing that. Human beings cannot create personalized content, right? क्योंकि आप 1 लाख लोगों के लिए 1 लाख वर्जन नहीं लिख सकते हो, right? I'm sure a lot of people will just, because all of us appreciate a very personalized experience where we feel that somebody really, you know, the most expensive thing, because we used to study gifting a lot, right? You know, the what people care for in gifting is not the price of the product, but how much thought and attention has gone into it, right? That is more important. Which is why, when people give us gifts with a small card जिसपे उन्होंने नोट लिखा रहता है, वो जो गिफ्ट आपको मिला होगा भले वो भुला जाएगा, बट वो नोट को आप बचा के रखते हो, right? And really it touches your heart, and you will share it with a lot of people, and you will keep reading it again and again, and it makes you feel great, right? So now imagine कि आप जो भी प्रोडक्ट बेच रहे हो, बट यू ब्रिंग इन दैट पर्सनलाइज्ड एलिमेंट दैट एवरीबडी फील्स एज इफ somebody really gave them a lot of thought and attention to really understand their personal specific requirements and addressed it.
Yeah,
You
cool.
can't do it at the product level, right? At least not today. Although at one stage, I think with personalized medicine, etc., a lot of that can be done, which is again an opportunity in health and wellness, right? But just think about it in terms of so you asked, right, कि digital marketing. ये तो डिजिटल मार्केटिंग में आप कर सकते हो, राइट? एंड जैसे द वे कैडबरी डिड इट, यू कैन जस्ट मतलब वी आर स्टिल टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट एड, राइट? सो एंड आई एम श्योर कि देयर आर मेनी अदर थिंग्स व्हिच आर पॉसिबल टू डू टुडे.
कैडबरी ने सो बेसिकली शाहरुख खान हैड लाइक एआई के थ्रू उन्होंने पर्सनलाइज्ड नाम लिए थे सबके, राइट?
वही मैं बोल रहा हूँ ना,
कस्टमर्स
नाम
के.
एंड आपका जो लोकेलिटी. सो दे न्यू कि यू आर सपोज यू आर इन वर्ली, सो वो कुछ वर्ली का एक स्टोर का नाम लेता, which was to help the local SMEs. But imagine you are a customer of whatever brand you consume, right? They have so much data for you.
Yeah.
How much of it is used to actually send you, like you almost feel as if this person is, I had a great experience with a retail store once. I went there, and this is one of those expensive t-shirt companies. Okay. One of the very famous international ones. For whatever reason, I went there, I bought one, and फिर मैं आ गया. Many months later, he called me. तो आई सेड ठीक, आई पिक्ड अप द कॉल. ही सेड कि सर आप आए थे, आपने ये खरीदा था ना, आपने ये नहीं खरीदा था. सो नाउ वी हैव एन ऑफर गोइंग ऑन. आई रिमेंबर द कलर्स यू हैड लुक्ड एट दैट डे. So some of these are on sale now, and I'm sending you pictures of all the t-shirt colors which are on sale, because usually, right, sometimes many colors are not on sale, right? It will only be those odd colors which will be on sale. So I thought ki because there's a chance to buy them on discount, so isliye just because he sent me that message I went to the store and bought it, even though going to the store I find very painful and I had no requirement to buy. But when somebody does that, no, you just feel ki oh my god, kya kiya isne.
Correct. Did you buy that?
Yeah.
You ended up buying.
Yeah. How will you not? That's what I'm trying to tell you. That if you can create demand out of nothing, literally, and इसमें क्या होता है ना कि I know while it was on discount, and that also would have played into my mind, but I have seen enough examples where you forget about the price and the discount and whether it is expensive. See, what does a brand do? A brand makes you do irrational things, and pricing is the most rational thing, right? And pricing is the reason. How does a business make more margin and more profit? By making people do irrational things. No, rationally, how much advantage can you create? It is very hard, right? You have to be a real hard thing in the same commoditized category. You create more advantage. But imagine if you figure out ways to get irrational gross margin for irrational things, right? By focusing on things which make people do irrational things, then brand is one way of doing it, right? But if you look at it as a larger theme, everything which can make a person do an irrational thing, which is to buy products when they don't need it, which is to pay for products which are highly priced, or buy full priced items, or buy more of them. And जब आप irrational काम करते हो, आप ज्यादा लोगों को बताओगे भी कि I was so crazy or I did this.
So just अभी last segment में दो 2-3 case studies like wanted to discuss with you about some brands which according to you have become like very successful in the startup ecosystem and what worked for them, and यही D2C segment में या पूरे segment में like एक दो companies which got shut down in the last 1 year 2 years and what didn't work for them. तो दोनों cases में like if you can name like कोई D2C brand जो बहुत अच्छा चला and according to you what worked well for them. Okay, like do you know any one of these? Like what do you think would work well
So
for them?
one company which I really love is a company called Traya, which is about hair regrowth. And the thing is that everybody, a lot of people would look at that business as a business which had, there are lots of new chemicals which can be put on your hair and they help, right? There's this minoxidil and all of these things. And a lot of people would not would see that company ऐसे कि हाँ ये लोग भी वही products use कर रहे हैं जो पूरी दुनिया use कर रही है. तो इसमें what is so unique or different about it, right? But actually they were doing more than that. So they were trying to treat your hair related problems by understanding you holistically, which means your food habits, your gut health, your stress levels, your sleep, and everything. And I thought that in itself was amazing, but a lot of people were not getting it because their mental model में ना they were only able to see कि ये लोग भी वही product बेच रहे हैं जो बाकी लोग बेचते हैं, तो इसमें अलग क्या है. But that was also not the beauty about that business. The beauty was actually a third thing, which was how they were driving adherence. And what it means is that, see, actually अगर मैं ये बोलूँ कि किसी का weight loss कराना है, unless you have a genetic or some obesity related problem, if you eat well and eat right and you exercise enough, आपका weight loss 95% cases में हो जाना चाहिए. So there is no magic to what can help you lose weight. The problem is in being disciplined and seeing it through, right? For 2 months or 3 months, whatever. They have created a formula using coaches and digital and nudges and some psychology where they are able to do that. So their adherence is their secret sauce and not the products or those are also great, but it is their adherence which kills. And they have done it in such a great way because of which the profitability, the growth, everything is just amazing.
They are one of the perfect examples of the fact that their user-generated content, their own YouTube channel is doing extremely well. Huh?
Everything, because they have figured out कि क्या चाहिए. So actually the other part which is beautiful about the business कि क्या होता है ना कि एक आदमी who finishes the solution and therefore sees impact, their word of mouth is insane. Because imagine a person who has a hair related problem and then he tries something or she tries something and usse actually it gets solved. So the customers which they acquire through word of mouth of the users is also very high and they make an effort to measure that. And इसलिए उनके पास इतना amazing user stories है ना, तो yeah, they are able to use it.
Have you heard of this brand called Super You, the protein chips one? Which
I've heard, I've never used it, but I've heard of them.
Yeah, I think even like lately they've also started doing very well, and in a span of just less than 1 year, have scaled a lot. Like I was just trying to study some companies in this segment, like scaled a lot. And again, like Ranveer Singh being one of the co-founders, his marketing and his entire Instagram handle is being leveraged to like sell the product. But I think more than that, focus on the health aspect. Like the chips have proteins inside it, so you do not have that guilty feeling कि अरे यार ये खा के मैंने कुछ junk food खाया है, but rather the taste is so good. Like yesterday only I ordered it, मेरा taste इतना अच्छा है, crispy है, crunchy है.
अच्छा, tasty भी है.
हाँ, बहुत tasty है, and
I
उसके
think
साथ साथ
that is the
protein भी है.
key, क्योंकि बहुत लोग ना healthy के नाम पे they lose the taste.
हाँ,
So in fact, it was almost assumed that tasty and healthy cannot go together. So if they have got that right, then so I'm going to try it out.
Yeah, तो वो एक
Super
brand
You,
है,
right?
हाँ, Super You. So I think they've become quite famous now. But yeah, that is a brand which is again very new. मतलब I think less than 1 year. I think 10 महीने हुआ होगा existence में. But like they've been scaling very well as well. In your entire journey of CaratLane, since it was also acquired by Titan, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala was one of the big investors in Titan. Did you have an opportunity to talk to him? Did you
I
remember?
didn't have it, but he was Mithun was very close to him.
Okay.
And I think he gave a lot of very good advice to Mithun, which helped in a lot of ways. So we were also beneficiaries of his magic.
Do you remember the advice?
I don't remember because I never spoke to him directly.
Okay.
But I think in a lot of especially the way financial decisions, I think that being his great understanding also.
आपके ये सारे इंटरेक्शंस के थ्रू जो भी स्टार्टअप फाउंडर्स के साथ हो रहे हैं एंड इवन विद अ लॉट ऑफ कंपनीज, आपको अभी जैसे एक इंडियन कंज्यूमर एंड सिंस यू हैव बिल्ट CaratLane एज वेल, सो इंडियन कंज्यूमर आज 2025 में, हाउ इज दैट इंडियन कंज्यूमर डिफरेंट वर्सेज एन इंडियन कंज्यूमर हु वाज लेट्स से बैक इन द 90s और 2000s? तो एक माइंडसेट कैसे चेंज हो रहा है इंडियन कंज्यूमर का?
सी 90s में इंडियन कंज्यूमर दो तरह से डिफरेंट, मतलब बहुत तरह से डिफरेंट था. एक तो क्या था कि इंडियन कंज्यूमर एंड अमेरिकन कस्टमर वर वेरी वेरी डिफरेंट. Today, especially when I see the younger people, I don't think there's any difference because they are consuming the same things, they are consuming the same media at the same time, and everything becomes available so quickly that the consumer has become very, very different. And even within India, the aspiration has changed in a dramatic way, even within India across income groups. पहले क्या था ना, I'll tell you a very simple thing, that we would have clothes which were nice clothes which you would wear when you went out, and you had simple stuff which you would wear at home. And ये brand का तो concept ही नहीं था in the 90s also, right? At least in the early part of the 90s. Today ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. You want to look good at whatever income group or economic class you belong to, like literally all the time, right? Plus the way, the amount of choice which is available, and because of financing and credit cards and money and everything, that their desire level and again that aspiration level is very, very different. And because of quick commerce and even e-commerce, getting these things and trying them out has become so fast कि it is the hunger and appetite of that customer is very, very different, as long as you can give them good products and at good prices. And I think that is the key. Obviously there is more competition, more types of media, but I think at a fundamental level it's like American consumers who were always like that, Indians have all become like that. Our consumerism has reached, like, is now on steroids across all groups, even older people.
And do you think this trend will continue like for the near future?
Yeah, but it is irreversible, no? Because the new generation is even more advanced on consumerism.
Right. Awesome. Super insightful, super interesting discussion. One last question, which I ask all my guests. It's a tricky one. If you were in the shoes of Kushal Lodha and if you were interviewing Mr. Avnish Anand, what is one question you would like to ask him towards the end?
See, some people ask, tell me about your failures in building CaratLane or your failures in life. That kind of one philosophical question people ask. Or sometimes they say, what advice would you give to a founder? I think that you already kind of covered earlier.
Failure मतलब mistakes की बात की हमने, and advice. One question which you would like to ask yourself.
See, one thing which I have learned, actually that was a question I would have asked you, which I already asked you in the beginning. See, just I asked you, right, which is the one book which you can tell me, which is not, see, just the hard thing about hard things is like a Bible, right? Everybody knows about it. Like everybody who's even thoda sa bhi interested in books and startups knows about it.
Okay.
The Almanac of Naval Ravikant is so popular ki, but they say if you talk about even this book which you have given me, right?
Yeah.
If I go and ask 100 people randomly ना, I think कि less single digit में लोग होंगे जो उसके बारे में जानते होंगे और उससे भी कम लोग होंगे जो इसको पढ़े होंगे. So this is like a real hidden gem.
Yeah.
Hidden gems are more important than. So I would ask you, possibly tell me one hack which you have discovered in life, which is like that, which is not such a well-known thing which everybody does.
Yeah. So what is that for you?
So just I have found great power in journaling, for example.
Oh, nice.
Even if you don't write and do journal, if you just reflect, it is, and the other thing which I think is thoda sa different in me as compared to a lot of other people is just I have found great value in being a generalist and some non-technical capabilities which have helped me a lot in my life. So I think a lot of people underestimate the power of non-technical skills, things like, getting better at people skills, for example, or just getting better at, I know it's a very cliched thing of saying first principles or whatever, but एक ना मेरे साथ बहुत बचपन से एक चीज थी ना कि I would always, जैसे if you have studied commerce but you would have studied science, right, at least till 10th. तो जैसे क्या होता था ना कि physics and maths में there are lots of formulas to remember, and they are all, for each situation there will be a formula so that you can quickly calculate and get it. I would just hate it all my life. And I used to just remember the basic formula, and if you got a problem, then you would start from there and then derive karke solve a problem, even if it was in the IIT JEE exam, because I would just, and years of practice happened like this कि everything no I would deal with that कि ये बस यही है. आज इसी चीज को शायद लोग बोलते हैं फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल या whatever. Earlier तो we didn't even have a word for it. And I think this is something no if you kind of practice from the very beginning and you become good at it, I think it really helps in the way you think about stuff. And I feel that in my life, if you ask me जैसे कि मेरा subject expertise area क्या है, ऐसा कोई area ही नहीं है. So I'm not a product or a marketing or a sales or a retail or a whatever person. I'm like very generalist in that sense. But what has helped me become a good generalist is like good people skills or say good thinking skill like this. And I think one area which has helped a lot now is this reflection. And एक चीज जो मैंने एडम ग्रांट के बुक में पढ़ी है, थिंक अगेन, इज अबाउट दिस साइंटिफिक माइंडसेट. Where if you every time you're proven wrong, and if you actually take pleasure in that, because you realize ki I am actually better off because whatever I knew earlier was wrong, right? And because of which I would have been making suboptimal choices, and actually, so now I know better. So I can now be better than what I was earlier because now I've discovered one thing which was wrong with myself, rather than feeling कि यार ये तो मेरा गलत है, not accepting it. It's just a different approach to reflection and finding faults in yourself, which actually gives you a great power. So that scientific state of mind, I think, is a very powerful thing, which actually doesn't come to us naturally because we don't take pleasure in being proven wrong. But if you flip it like that, then it becomes very powerful. Then you go and seek feedback from everybody to keep finding catch up what is not working well so I can fix it.
Yeah. I read one very interesting tweet of Kunal Shah of Cred. He had mentioned that there are two types of people. One is feedback attractors, one are feedback repellers. So feedback attractors are basically people who will take feedback very positively, attract feedback and all. And repellers are like who repel feedback and don't like if someone gives them feedback and all of that. So always, of course, try to be feedback attractors, and feedback repellers are on the verge of downfall and attractors are always on the verge of growth. So that was something which is very interesting.
I would say I have a variant of that. What happens that if you are in a powerful position in life or in a company, right? A lot of people will come and give you ideas, right? Depending on how you take that idea, they will again come back to you with another idea in the future or not, right? मतलब एक तरह से जैसे बिजनेस में रिपीट रेट होता है कंज्यूमर का, ये वैसा ही है, राइट? इट्स लाइक अ काइंड ऑफ रिपीट रेट. सो इफ पीपल मोर एंड मोर पीपल आर कमिंग टू यू विद आइडियाज, इट मीन्स दैट जिन लोगों ने पहले दे केम टू यू, वो लोग अब आपके बारे में वर्ड ऑफ माउथ कर रहे हैं, which is why new people also feel confident and the ones who came earlier are also coming back. But if the opposite is happening कि पहले 10 लोग आते थे एक वीक में और अभी 2 ही लोग आ रहे हैं, which means कि the negative word of mouth is happening and your retention rate is also falling.
Yeah. Wow, yeah, that's such a lovely way to put it.
I totally believe in that. So you should be mindful of how many people keep reaching out to you.
Yeah. So if the number of reach outs are increasing, it means you're doing good.
But you deal with that in a good way and people find value in it.
Yeah.
But if less people are reaching out to you, just as you said, right? These founders, if they keep. So if 5 people would reach out to you earlier in a week and now it's become 7, then it's good. But if it's become 3, then there's a big problem.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, that's a good one. Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. बहुत मजा आया आपसे बात करके and बहुत ही insightful था. Learned a lot from you, your journey, and thank you so much for being very candid about the mistakes of your journey in CaratLane, etc. as well.
See that I think first to thank you so much for having me here, Kushal, and I enjoyed the conversation just as much because I think it never felt like a question. It was almost felt like a conversation. And जब आपको थोड़ा लाइफ में when you are lucky enough to get a little success, then it makes you more comfortable with being more candid also. So it's just that I'm fortunate enough that I got into a situation like that. In a different situation, it might not have been. So it's not a factor of who you are, it's a factor of what you have got in life.
Yeah. You resigned in 2024 because you said on LinkedIn that you wanted to focus more on like work-life balance and all, right? Like, so you're now prioritizing work
So
life
work
balance
life in
and
every
health and all.
sense, matlab my own personal health and
Mm.
fitness, which is why I now have all whatever insights I had about the
Yeah,
health and wellness
yeah.
space. And plus, family,
Mm.
other pursuits. So in the last 1 year, I have gone to Wimbledon, and I didn't go this year where everybody seems to have gone to Wimbledon and posted on Instagram. I went last year. And I have gone to watch the Boxing Day test match in MCG. And I also watched the LA Lakers in the first round playoffs in Los Angeles. So those were three important bucket list items for me.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and I taught a class at IIM Ranchi, which I always wanted to do, plus a few other things which I've kind of wanted to do, which I never had time for earlier. So that was, yes, I'm very thankful that it's turned out like the way I had hoped it would.
Yeah. No, amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much once again for doing this. Had an amazing time.
No, thank you. Equally,
Nice.
likewise, Kushal, and I equally had a great time. We never realized how quickly the
Yeah.
time passed.
अगर आपको ये वीडियो पसंद आया होगा तो आई रिक्वेस्ट यू टू शेयर इट विद ऑल योर फ्रेंड्स एंड सब्सक्राइब टू आवर चैनल सो दैट वी कैन गिव यू मोर वैल्यू एडिटिव कंटेंट इन द शॉर्टेस्ट अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम. हमको ये बताइए कि आपको कौन से काइंड ऑफ गेस्ट चाहिए. हमको ये बताइए कि कौन से क्वेश्चंस मुझे नहीं पूछने चाहिए थे, कौन से क्वेश्चंस मुझे और पूछने चाहिए थे ताकि आपको और ज़्यादा वैल्यू मिल सके, और कौन से ऐसे पार्ट्स हैं जो आपको बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं आए ताकि हम लोग ये पार्ट स्ट्रीम कर सके फ्यूचर एपिसोड्स में. सो थैंक यू सो मच वंस अगेन फॉर वॉचिंग दिस एपिसोड एंड कीप शेयरिंग ऑल आवर एपिसोड्स विद योर फ्रेंड्स एंड कीप गिविंग अस फीडबैक so that we can improve and come up with better quality content.